The reading for December 10th is Isaiah 7, verses 13 to 14. And he said, "Hear then, O house of David, is it too little for you to weary men, that you weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Immanuel." This passage here is familiar because it is quoted, of course, in Matthew 1:23. The virgin shall conceive. And so for us, we think perhaps that's just a obvious reference. Well, actually, in the context here is judgment for Israel of the day, and this wasn't immediately obvious as a sign, because later on there is a maiden who conceives and gives birth. The word here is much under dispute. If you have an RSV, in fact, it may say maiden, or an NRSV translation, it says maiden, and there's a lot of debate over the translation just of this one verse, because the word there has a broad meaning. It can mean maiden, as in young woman, or it can mean virgin. Well, in the immediate context, as you see, some of these things, like the Psalms, apply to David, but they apply even more truly to Christ. Well, the prophecy here actually has a near term and a far term fulfillment. And the near term isn't as good as the long term fulfillment. When Matthew quotes this verse, he says, "Not merely a young woman, but in the sense of a virgin shall conceive and bear a son," is how it was fleshed out later by one of the angels, of saying, this will show you that this is a better fulfillment of that promise. This will show you that Christ is a better fulfillment than any others that have come before. I think this verse actually helps us to understand that you can have multiple fulfillments of a prophecy, but it is looking towards the better fulfillment of it. In Genesis, they thought that perhaps Noah was the one who was fulfilling Genesis 3:15, of the seed of the woman will crush the head of the seed of the serpent. But it wasn't a true and full fulfillment of that. Of course, the line of Judah and the promise to Judah, they thought maybe David is fulfilling that, and everybody looks back to David as the best that it ever had been, and yet David himself is prophesying of there is a better time to come that will fulfill these things better than even I have, and so does Solomon, and so does Isaiah here too. He has words about a fulfillment of a child that is given, but the child that's given in this context doesn't avert exile. But the child that is given in Christ and in the Messiah will take away all of the cursing and all of the judgment that surrounds the first 39 chapters of Isaiah. There will be a child that can actually take away all of those things. There's a better fulfillment that is coming. And so Isaiah 7:14, its ultimate fulfillment is in a virgin, as we see in Matthew 1:23. There is a better fulfillment to come, and that's how we start to understand there is a hope and a greater hope that is coming in Christ.